Most people fail to build muscle not because they don't work hard enough, but because they're doing too much of the wrong things. They overcomplicate what is, at its core, a simple process. Building muscle isn't some mystery that only elite athletes can figure out. It's not a game of endless volume, exotic supplements, or chasing every new workout you see on social media. It's about understanding how the body actually responds to stress, and then applying that knowledge with discipline, patience, and consistency. The truth is, once you understand the fundamentals of muscle growth, it all becomes clear. Your goal isn't to annihilate your body in the gym. Your goal is to stimulate it, to send a clear signal that says, I need to be stronger, I need to adapt. That's it. Once that signal is sent effectively, your job is to get out of the gym, recover, and allow your body to do what it's designed to do, grow. When I say building muscle is simple, I don't mean it's easy. It requires effort, intensity, and consistency. But it's not complicated. You don't need a PhD in exercise science to grow muscle. You just need to know what actually drives growth, and more importantly, what doesn't. So let's start with the basics. Muscle grows through a process called hypertrophy, the enlargement of muscle fibers as they adapt to the stress of resistance training. When you lift weights, you create mechanical tension within the muscle. That tension is the primary signal that tells your body, I need to get stronger, I need to build. That tension activates a chain of responses inside the muscle cell, what's known as muscle protein synthesis, or MPS. Through this process, your body adds new proteins to the muscle fibers, reinforcing and thickening them over time. That's how growth actually happens. The real driver of growth is the signal created by tension and intensity, not destruction. You don't need to destroy your muscles to make them grow. You just need to challenge them enough to trigger that adaptive response, and then allow the body to recover and rebuild stronger. And that's the key. The growth doesn't happen in the gym. It happens after you leave. Where your workout is the stimulus, recovery is where the magic happens. That's why training harder and training more are not the same thing. Most people think that if they add more sets, more exercises, and more days in the gym, they'll grow faster. But your muscles don't grow based on the amount of work you do. They grow based on how well you recover from the work you do. There's a limit to how much your body can handle before it stops adapting and starts breaking down. That's where the principle of effective stimulus comes in. It's not about how long you train, it's about how effectively you train. 1 or 2 hard, focused sets per exercise can often be more than enough if the intensity is right. This is what is called the 2-set method. You warm up, you prepare your body, and then you go all in for 1 or 2 working sets. Sets that truly push your muscles close to failure. You give those sets everything you have. You make every rep count. If you're training with real intent and real focus, you don't need 5 or 6 sets per exercise. You don't need to do 15 different movements for your chest. You just need to stimulate it properly. A few well-chosen exercises executed with perfect form and true effort will always outperform a marathon session of mindless volume. This approach isn't new. It's rooted in the philosophy of some of the greatest bodybuilders in history. Mike Mentzer built his entire heavy-duty system on this idea of high-intensity, low-volume training. He understood that once a muscle has been pushed to its limit, more sets just create more fatigue, not progress. Dorian Yates, a 6-time Mr. Olympia, took that same principle to the next level. 1 all-out set to failure, executed with laser focus and brutal intensity. And even Lee Haney, who was known for his balanced approach, used to say, stimulate, don't annihilate. These men didn't chase exhaustion, they chased results. The beauty of this approach is that it's efficient and sustainable. You can train 3 to 4 times a week, hit every major muscle group, and still have time to rest, recover, and live your life. You don't have to be in the gym every single day. In fact, if you are, you might be doing more harm than good. Muscles grow outside the gym, when you're eating, sleeping, and recovering. Training is simply the trigger. Recovery is the growth phase. So let's talk about frequency and structure. Training 3 to 4 days a week gives your body time to adapt. For example, a push-pull leg split over 3 days is simple and effective. You hit your muscles hard, you rest, and you come back stronger. If you're doing 5 or 6 exercises per session, focusing on compound lifts, squats, deadlifts, presses, and rows, that's more than enough. Each workout should take about an hour, give or take. You're not living in the gym, you're training with purpose and moving on. Now, the main reason most people struggle with this concept is because it feels too simple. We've been conditioned to believe that more is always better. More volume, more frequency, more supplements. But biology doesn't care about how much time you spend in the gym. It only responds to the quality of the stimulus. Think of it like a light switch. Once you flipped it on, flipping it 50 more times won't make the room any brighter. Once you've stimulated the muscle enough to trigger adaptation, doing more doesn't help. It just adds unnecessary fatigue and slows recovery. This is where intensity becomes everything. True intensity, the kind where you're giving everything in those last few reps, is rare. Most people have never truly trained to failure. They stop when it gets uncomfortable, not when it becomes impossible. But that's where growth lives, just past your comfort zone, in those final, brutally difficult reps that demand everything you've got. With the 2-set method, every set matters. You're not wasting time on fluff volume. You're training with intent, precision, and focus. You're telling your body exactly what you need from it. And over time, that consistent message leads to growth. Let's talk about recovery, because it's the most overlooked part of the process. When you train, you're breaking down tissue. When you rest, you're rebuilding it stronger. Sleep, nutrition, hydration, and stress management all play a massive role in how effectively your body grows. If you're not sleeping enough, if you're not eating enough, or if you're constantly stressed, your recovery will suffer, and so will your gains. Training 3 to 4 times per week allows you to balance intensity with recovery. You can go all out in each session because you know you'll have time to recover before hitting that muscle again. This balance is what leads to consistent progress. So now we can talk about patience, because this is where most people fall short. Building muscle takes time. It's a process measured in months and years, not days and weeks. You can't rush it, you can't hack it. You can only respect it. The results come to those who stay consistent, who train smart, and who play the long game. Every time you step into the gym, your goal should be simple. Do a little bit better than last time. 1 more rep, a bit more weight, better form, more control. That's progressive overload, the foundation of muscle growth. You're not competing against anyone else. You're competing against who you were last session. And that's where the simplicity of this approach really shines. When you strip away the noise, the flashy workouts, the influencer nonsense, and the overcomplicated routines, you're left with what actually matters. Consistent, intense effort over time. That's how muscle is built. It's like life. The more you chase shortcuts, the longer it takes to reach your goal. But when you commit to the fundamentals, progress becomes inevitable. The same applies to training. You can't fake intensity. You can't out-train bad recovery. You can't outwork poor consistency. Once you understand that, everything clicks. You stop program hopping. You stop chasing volume. You stop doubting the process. You realize that building muscle is about mastering a few simple principles and applying them relentlessly. Train hard, rest well, eat enough, be patient, repeat. That's the formula. And ironically, the moment you stop overcomplicating is the moment it all starts to make sense. Because building muscle isn't complicated, it's just demanding. It requires effort, discipline, and consistency. But once you know what you're doing, it becomes simple. You train with purpose, you recover with intent, and you keep showing up. Over time, that simplicity compounds. Your strength increases, your physique changes, and your mindset evolves. You begin to realize that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, not just in training, but in life. So remember, stimulate, don't annihilate. Chase progression, not exhaustion, and never confuse complexity with effectiveness. Building muscle is simple once you know what you're doing.